I used to hate practicing drums, and this led to huge plateaus in my playing, failed auditions, and feeling totally stuck as a drummer. But somewhere along the way, I found a way to brainwash myself to get addicted to drum practice, and as a result, I became a way better drummer, landed gigs that have allowed me to play in front of 50,000 people, been nominated for 2 Grammys, and have even written a #1 song. So how did I do it? Well, I treat drum practice like a video game. Let me show you what I'm talking about.
All work, no pleasure. I ain't here to make friends, big stepper. Hey, bad guy, heat pleasure. Ready for whatever, I'll be front and center. Don't stop.
The real game is the side quests. Now, have you ever played a video game where the side quests are way more satisfying than the actual campaign itself? Well, practicing drums is exactly like that. Let me tell you a quick story. The first many years of my practice, I would sit behind the kit, try to play a beat or a fill 5 times, and then if it didn't come together, I would get frustrated, give up, and walk away. Now, my focus was on getting the result as quickly as possible, but the irony here is when that was my approach, I got the result a lot slower. But when I shifted my focus to the real work, just showing up every day for 45 minutes, not expecting any results, but just pushing myself during that time, I would end up getting the result as a byproduct. We trick ourselves into thinking that the gold coin is the result, but instead the gold coin is actually showing up every day and putting in the work. Shift your expectation from completing a new level every day to every day you are making progress through the level. Now, with each one of these points, I'm going to unlock a secret practice item that has benefited me in my practice big time. So when you're feeling too results focused, your item to unlock is a practice timer. Simply setting a timer is one of my favorite practice tools because my brain gets distracted every 5 minutes when practicing. But if I set a timer for 20 minutes and I start to get the urge to focus on the result or get distracted, I can look at the timer, see how much time I have left, and keep locking in. Now, don't worry about writing any of this down because I've included a free 30-day practice plan for you with checkpoints to follow to start transforming your brain to love practice. Click the link in the description below and I'll send it to you for free.
Bam, bam, she wanna flick for the gram. Go ahead, shot, put that sabe who I am. She wanna check this beat, you on cam. Like, pull up. She wanna swallow this pull up.
Next, you have to create your map. Do you remember how it felt unlocking your first viewpoint in Assassin's Creed, gliding off the Great Plateau in Breath of the Wild, or seeing the vast overworld in Super Mario World? These are some of gaming's most satisfying moments, but why? Because they show us where we are and where we are going. And drummers who know these 2 things are way more likely to accomplish their goals. But guess what? Most drummers do not have a map in place. They typically sit behind the kit with no plan or go online and are completely overwhelmed by all the content. So instead, you need to create your own level for you to conquer over the next 90 days. And you need to create checkpoints and what the rules are for the level that you are trying to beat. Otherwise, you won't be having fun, and even worse, you won't be making real progress. So here's how to create your own level for you to conquer. First, create a list of 3 main things that you want to improve in your drumming over the next 90 days. If you don't know what that is, you can follow the CCTTP, which stands for Control, Coordination, Timing, Technique, and Patterns. These are the 5 building blocks of drumming. And what I want you to do is prioritize your 3 main categories in order of weakness. Step 2 is to create your plan for the week. And here's how I would structure it. Pick your top priority category and work on it 3 times throughout the week. And at a minimum, try to get 3 to 4 days of practice a week because this will keep you consistent and will turn it into a habit and a routine. But if you just want to start off with my 30-day practice plan, click the link in the description below and I'll send it to you for free. But there's been a new item unlocked that will make your plan 10 times more effective. And this is logging your practice. At the end of each practice session for each one of your exercises, you want to know your starting and ending tempos. This will allow you to push yourself further the next time you show up for your practice. Because what a lot of drummers do is they just keep practicing at the same tempos over and over again, and they never get any more control or they never get any more speed. But remember, you are in competition with yourself. You want to keep pushing yourself as far as you can each and every practice session. And personally, I like to use the My Journal tool inside DBO Academy. It helps me become very organized within my practice. Now, these first 2 points will get you started in a good direction with your practice, but there are some really important elements here coming up that you're gonna want to pay attention to in order to make the most progress as fast as possible. Now, there are 3 ways to practice your drumming and make progress, but one of them gives you way more progress than the other 2. Option number 1 is to go through the game alone. This is where you lock yourself in your bedroom or your basement and you really try to lock in and practice, which is great. But the downside of this is it can lead to fast burnout and you don't actually get any feedback on where you are really at in your drumming. Option number 2 is to go at it with peers, which sounds great in theory, but sometimes you can find the wrong peers and it can lead to situations like this.
Let's do this. Leroy Dragons!
Oh my god, he just ran in.
The real cheat code is to find your perfect clan. You want to surround yourself with people who share similar goals as you, along with people who have already accomplished what you want to accomplish. Putting it simply, find a community of people like you, along with some mentors. Now, I used to practice all by myself, and I thought I was making good progress, but the only reference I had was myself. And it all came crashing down when I showed up to an audition feeling very confident, but instead I failed it because I had no one giving me feedback on how to improve. But by far the times I've made the most progress in my drumming is actually when I used to play at churches. The reason for this is I was surrounded by a lot of peers, musicians who were my same age, trying to accomplish the same thing as me, but I also had people in that community who were 1 or 2 decades older than me and much better than me, who are able to show me how to make progress a lot faster because they've already done it. So we've got 2 practice tools that get unlocked at this stage. Tool number 1 is to review your game tape. What this means is at the end of your practice session, film a quick video on your phone of you working on what you were practicing so you can get a different view of what you actually sound like. This allows you to diagnose your problems a lot easier, especially if you're practicing by yourself. But you can take this to the next level by sharing these videos with your community. Putting yourself out there and asking for feedback from your peers and mentors is the ultimate hack. And you can find your community on Facebook groups, Reddit, or DBO Academy. There's plenty of options. But you may be thinking, Gabe, I'm way too nervous to put myself out there because I don't want videos out there of me sounding bad. And this unlocks practice item number 2, which is giving yourself the permission to sound like crap. Too many drummers do not get better in their practice because they're only practicing things that they are good at. But you're only going to get better if you practice the things that you are bad at. Give yourself permission to sound bad, not only to yourself, but in front of others, because this is how you will start to get feedback on what to improve. This is something we do for our mentorship students all the time. Not only welcome them into an incredible community of peers who are trying to accomplish the same goals, but we're able to mentor them, give them the shortcuts, give them the feedback to make the fastest progress they've ever made in their lives. At the time of recording this, we don't have any spots available, but if you want to apply to see if you get approved for the next time we do have a spot open up, you can click the link in the description below. Step number 4 is to raise your difficulty level. Have you ever beat a video game on easy mode, but then have learned so much that you want to go back and try to beat it at hard mode? Well, great drummers do the exact same thing with their practice here. We like video games because there's consequences if we don't beat the level. It keeps us coming back and trying our absolute best. But when there are no challenges, things start to feel very boring and stagnant. This is why you have to create challenges for yourself in your practice. And this can be a few things. This can be trying to hit a certain tempo goal for your practice that day, or trying to play that new thing you just learned, but with your weak hand leading. When you start to give your exercises context and challenges, they start incorporating themselves into your drumming much more naturally. And it's a lot more fun and a lot more addictive. But you can't just stop at challenges. You also have to add stakes into your playing. The time in my life that I've made the most drum progress is when I had to learn double kick in 3 weeks for the I Prevail audition. The reason I made the most progress is because there was huge stakes. If I didn't learn how to play the double kick good enough for this audition, I was either going to get the gig or I was not going to get the gig. And as a result, I practiced 6 hours a day every single day. But I never would have done that, and I never would have made that progress if there weren't real world stakes on the other side for me. So here's my stakes framework. Step number 1 is to pick a skill, an exercise, or a song that you want to get better at. Step number 2 is to pick a date, anywhere from 7 to 30 days away. And step number 3, when that date comes, you have to post a video of you playing that exercise, beat, or song to your community. This will keep you accountable. You can either play the thing or you can't play the thing. And trust me, if you force yourself to post it, you are gonna wanna try to play that thing as good as you possibly can, which means that you're gonna have to put in probably more work than you would otherwise. And this leads us to the new item that's being unlocked here, which is one of my favorite practice tools that I use all the time. And that's where the jam sandwich comes in. Because at this point you might be thinking, Gabe, these are great thoughts, but really I just want practice to become more fun. For me, there's a lot of resistance to practicing because when I sit behind the kit, I see all of these beautiful cymbals and drums and I just want to go nuts. And so you know what I do? Step number 1 of the jam sandwich is I jam. I actually do go nuts. I let myself for 10 minutes just play whatever the heck I want. Now after that 10 minutes, it leads me to step number 2, which is your actual practice time. Now that I've gotten my jamming out, it's time to lock in and practice for however long that is. And then step number 3 is to end my practice session with more positive reinforcement because maybe that practice session was a bit frustrating. But at the end, guess what? I'm gonna do some more jamming. This is gonna be my reward for practicing. And as a result, my practice time doesn't feel like this torturous experience. It feels like fun mixed with hard work, which is rewarding, mixed with more fun. And that makes practice really addictive. But this last point, I have to debunk one of the biggest myths in drumming that there is. The greatest misconception in drumming is that there is a final boss for you to beat. So many of us look at our favorite drummers and we go, oh, they beat the final boss, they've made it. But guys, there's no final boss. Drumming is a high score game. The point of the game is to keep playing and to keep beating your high score. And in your mind, you might think there's a certain high score that once you achieve it, it will be the final boss, but I promise it won't. Because as your drumming skill grows, your expectation of yourself grows alongside of it. Even the best drummers in the world have so much about their drumming that they want to improve. And this is why tracking your progress is so important. It's your scorecard. It's showing you what your high score is and giving you the benchmark of how to beat that high score. But the key thing here is you're not always gonna beat your high score. You have to have a bias towards action. You gotta keep turning on the video game and knowing that every time you turn it on, you're not gonna get a new high score. But maybe once every couple weeks you'll get a new high score, or maybe once a month you'll get a new high score, and that is making progress. Now, the new item that you will unlock here is a very, very powerful practice tool, and it's something I call the 5-minute rule. Just set a goal of practicing something for 5 minutes. It's very, very approachable. And what's gonna happen is it's gonna get you behind your kit to practice for 5 minutes. And then if you really wanna be done at that point, you can. But typically it takes just about 5 minutes to start to enter into that practice flow state, and you're going to want to stay much longer. So it's a bit of a cheat code for getting you behind your kit to practice because the expectation is so small and that you end up practicing maybe for even longer than you would have in the first place. And if you wanna know exactly what you should practice to make the most progress, well, then you need to find out what your progress killers are. And I lay them out in great detail in this video right here.